Now, unlike the previous two Terrifiers, Leone had enough money on this one to bring in a VFX and makeup team for Terrifier 3, which is crazy. He and like a small crew did all the effects in the first two. But for this one, they brought in some teams. They were able to up the ante on the gore. Leone worked with Christian Tinsley and Tinsley Studios right here in Burbank. Shout out to them. And the godfather of gore himself. I guess that name's already taken. That would be Herschel Gordon Lewis. But the
step godfather,
the step godfather of gore, Tom Savini. They worked with his company, Callosum Studios. Savini also gets a cameo in Terrifier 3. The DP was George Stuber, and the cast is headlined by Lauren Lavera as Sienna Shaw, and of course David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown. You also have Elliot Fulham returning as the little brother Jonathan, and Samantha Scafidi as Victoria. And we also have cameos by wrestler Chris Jericho, B-movie icon Clint Howard, Daniel Roebuck from The Late Shift, Jason Patrick from Lost Boys, which we're reviewing in the second half of tonight's show, and of course Tom Savini gets a cameo as well. Terrifier 3 was distributed by Cineverse, and it's making bank at the box office, as we said, off a $2 million production budget. Joe, our resident horror correspondent, what did you think of Terrifier 3?
Brett, I really, really liked Terrifier 3. Terrifier made its bones being the franchise, or at least the movie at first, that had the big showcase kills. That's what this was all about, and it's all about upping those kills, and we can talk about the funniness and the theology and the lore and the art and the PR, but at the end of the day, this franchise's mission statement is we're going to have the craziest, wackiest kills you ever did see, and they're going to shock and delight if you're a freak. And I think we and our compatriots in the movie theater were those freaks because, I don't know about you, Brett, but we all really enjoyed the kills.
We were hooping and hollering at this thing. And also, we should say, we saw this movie together.
We did.
Which is a rare event.
It was.
We saw it together,
but it was
and
fun.
It was the perfect way to see it. It was the perfect way to see it.
Because there was one point when we looked over at each other, and it was like it was so disgusting that we just burst into a big laugh together.
We were cracking up.
It was so funny.
I think 3 or 4 times I looked at you, I was just like, holy shit.
There's a couple. So anyway, if the mission is to do the gore thing and do it to the nth degree, well then Damien and the team crushed it, Brett. I loved the effects. The effects, despite all of the violence, are so lovingly made, so beautifully crafted, so funnily implemented, and so painstakingly framed and shot and lit. It's really fun, and the fun they had making it, I'm just assuming, was translated to me, the viewer. It feels like there's a lot of passion behind art and behind these Terrifier films. So I really liked that. Other things I really liked this time, Brett, they got a new lens package.
Yeah.
Wow, what a difference an anamorphic makes. Even just some establishings that look good and not dog shit is huge. I think Leone still has, he's not, this ain't the most beautiful looking shots you ever did see. I think it's okay. I think he really struggles actually with framing, sometimes with lighting. I think he struggles with editing. But also all of that's basically washed away or forgiven or justified because the kills are so great. I think Lauren Lavera is a great lead.
Yeah.
If she's like the Neve Campbell of this franchise,
our new scream queen.
Beautiful. Yep. I love her. She's awesome. But let's be honest, Terrifier Nation, Lauren has to do a lot of work on some of these scenes in between the kills, because one of my big gripey poos with the franchise, especially Terrifier 2, which might be, a masterpiece classic. Man, oh man, every time the kill scenes are on, everybody in the movie theater pulls out their phone, gets up to go to the bathroom. You can feel the finality of the gore scene leading into a family-based or lore-based scene. I can give you a spiel about...
And you didn't like that. You didn't like the interplay of that.
I think those scenes are weak. And though I also think there's value in this movie's rhythms and aesthetics being so different than our normal horror fare, I think there's super value there. I think it is part and parcel of why the franchise is distinctive. But Brett, I just don't like it. I'm not saying it's stupid. I'm just saying I would do it differently. I find those scenes to be half-baked. And then last thing is the movie was just a sin, so sins are bad. The movie is just gruesome and violent. And you know what was so funny? I saw this movie twice. The first time I saw it, Brett, the day before I had watched Videodrome. So I
wow, you were
for the first viewing, I was like, all right, what are we doing? This is so grotesque. But then the second time, it was a couple days later. I had a cup of coffee. We went together. I was in a different headspace, and could watch that guy getting cut in half with a chainsaw.
We saw it at lunchtime. We saw it a 1 p.m. matinee. The theater was
I had
packed.
meetings like before it, and then I had meetings like after it. Like, yeah, the theater was bumping. Anyway, I love the movie. I think it's the best of the Terrifier movies because the kills are great, the Christmas elements are distinctive, and it is a little tighter than the overlong Terrifier 2. Anyway, I was a big fan. Brett, I have a rating that I want to give it on our star rating.
Yeah, okay. Let me do my review.
Okay,
let's
great.
hold off because
Okay.
I wonder if I'll change your rating at all.
Okay,
because I'm
beautiful.
banking on this rating because I have this on my fantasy team and I'm behind right now, so I need a big freaking good old rating for Terrifier 3.
Love the movie, love the fans, love the fact that it was $2 million, love the new lens package, love Art the
like
Crown.
a low
I
rating.
love the gruesomeness, and I love
These feel like
the
caveats.
kills. And I love that when the shower kill scene when the Terrifier Christmas song starts playing is so funny, and I love that.
They
part.
wrote a
It's
new
really funny.
Christmas song for Terrifier 3 that's like commenting on the movie
It's
you're
great.
watching, but it's so fun. It like survives the
fucking
meta-ness
awesome.
of it
It's
all,
so
and it's just
good.
fun. It's
I
just
love
fucking
that
fun.
part. Anyway.
All right, I have many agreements with you about Terrifier 3 and a few disagreements. The gore, same. I freaking love the gore. It's old school Tom Savini blood and guts, dismembered limbs, just devastating head
Lot of love,
trauma.
baby.
It
Yep.
is. It's also the kind of gore that I love because it's cinematic. It's not obsessed with realism, and I don't mean that it's not realistic. It's more in the style of like Giallo or Grand Guignol or like, you know, it's about the theater of it. So it's not about realism. It's about theater. And it's like art is like putting on a show for you every time he does a kill. He's like putting on a little play or a little theater piece for you. He's doing it for your entertainment. And that's why nobody dies quickly in this movie. Art loves to take his time. He loves to do all his little torture stuff, and he loves to perform for the audience. These are performance pieces that Art is putting on for you. But you also don't get like long, unrelenting stretches of gore, like say like the last 30 minutes of Evil Dead or something where it's just like you're swimming in blood and guts for 30 minutes. I have to imagine that's partly because of the small budget. But the gore is done in these little set pieces. And it's so gruesome and so horrifying and funny and entrancing. It's funny because I would occasionally like get the hand up here in anticipation when the gore was about to happen, but then as soon as we're in it, I am like, I cannot take my eyes away from the screen. There's something sort of gorgeous about the effects.
Yeah, you want to watch
Yeah.
them pull off the effect.
You lean towards the screen.
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
kind of
It is
remarkable
fun
how
to
they
watch them,
accomplish
how-
that.
Yes, exactly.
And then the in-between scenes, though, this is where it gets interesting for me. And I understand your sort of light criticism of them. Because in between the kills, the movie does a mix of like comedy, drama, character development. And it's like, look, it is like Hallmark movie quality in from the performances to the dialogue to the feel of it. It feels like a Hallmark movie. But the reason I like that is because the combination of those two elements, the kills with these like Hallmark movie sort of almost interstitials, is that the gore, you don't forget about the gore. The gore remains like the context, the underpinning of those scenes. The gore is like the medium of the movie, the language of the movie. It's what greases the wheels and makes everything else work. And so the comedy and the drama those scenes definitely wouldn't work in isolation. If you just did a super cut of all the like non-gory scenes in Terrifier 3, you'd be like, what the fuck? This movie's trash. But
That'd be the funniest fan edit.
yeah, it'd be like,
It's like when
take
they
out all
take Jar
the
Jar
gore.
Binks out of Phantom Menace. We just take all the gore out of the Terrifiers.
But when it's placed in the context of the gore and on those two elements come together, it is so surreal and uncanny, the effect of those two elements working together. It really like harkens back to the way B horror movies felt in the 80s, where like it would be these kills and then these scenes that look like they're out of like a you know, they're out of like a TV movie or a porno or something. They're stilted and they're kind of like a little awkward and they're not filmed as elegantly as they might be able to. But that is like the rich, strange, bizarre appeal of those kind of movies. And we don't get anything like that anymore because everything goes through 100 round of notes and 100 round of this. And it's at even if it's bad, it's hyper competent. You know, we don't get movies like this anymore. And I love the surrealness and the uncanniness when those two elements kind of meet together. And I agree that Terrifier 3 is the best installment in the franchise because making it a Christmas movie only heightens that contrast between those elements. Heightens the gore, heightens the comedy, heightens the shock value, and it heightens the like bizarreness of basically taking a Hallmark Christmas movie and then putting 6 of the goriest kill scenes you've ever seen, like interspersed throughout a Hallmark Christmas movie, is a absolutely stunning, surreal kind of combination of elements. And I know a horror Christmas movie as a conceit is not new. Of course, we have the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise. You have the original slasher Black Christmas, an absolute masterpiece. But again, the low budgetness of Terrifier 3 really brings out the appeal of Christmas horror by so closely mimicking the textures and rhythms of a Hallmark Christmas movie. I mean, if you like, it's like you can't overstate it. Like if you replaced the chainsaws and axes in Terrifier 3 with gingerbread spice lattes and comfy sweaters, you could call this movie Home for the Holidays and release it on Hallmark tomorrow if it didn't have the kills in it. It really has that texture in between the kills. And I just think that again, that contrast gets at something really elemental in our psychology. It turns something familiar into something sort of horrifying and grotesque, and it's just such a fun interplay of elements. They really make a meal out of the Christmas stuff. It's so amazing, and god damn it, you said it, Art is just such a winner of a character. They have really built him into such a horror icon. He's so funny. He's an unkillable demon, but he also has to ride the bus. He commits the most violent acts on the human body imaginable, but then also stoops to like slapstick for his own amusement. It's like he is such a unique and fun twist on like the scary clown, and I just love the character so much. One kill that I want to describe because it's so great and it kind of sums up for the movie for me is at the end of the movie. And again, if you don't want it spoiled, skip over this. Put us on mute. The kill scene in the living room with all the Christmas elements all sprayed out. They're in like a suburban living room. Art and his associate have already beheaded and disemboweled the husband, and they've crucified him on the wall. So his disemboweled body is just crucified on the wall of the living room. Then Sienna and her aunt are both tied up in the living room, and now Art's going to take his time with Sienna and the aunt. The aunt's death is... I actually won't describe the aunt's death.
I'm actually... I was going to... In my head, I was like, I don't know,
I won't describe...
Some people just don't like these kinds of
I
movies.
will not describe the aunt's death,
it's
okay? Because it's gruesome and grotesque.
It's actually... it's just... It actually made me laugh.
While of this disgusting torture death thing is happening, that is straight out of like the Spanish Inquisition. This one, they go medieval on the aunt. They go full medieval on the aunt. Art is like simultaneously like pulling the intestines out of the husband's disemboweled body and then putting them on the tree, like ornamenting the tree with the intestines. And every time he walks past Sienna, he like bops her on the head with the intestines, and they have this funny like bopped on the head sound effect. And I was like, oh my god, this is like, if you like this, you like Terrifier 3. This is like the most Terrifier 3 scene ever, where you have like slapstick comedy with like a Christmas movie with grotesque kills, and it's like funny and it's terrifying. It's everything all at once, and like Art is like having like fun. He's like having fun with it. He's enjoying, and he wants you to have like fun with it too. But you're also like, don't make me complicit in this. I don't want to be complicit in this grotesquerie, but you also kind of do because it's so much fun and it's crazy. It is like all of those elements together made me just like absolutely love this movie, and I think it's the best of the franchise. Our ratings, Joe. You go first. This is out of 5 stars.
Out of 5 stars. I think there was a moment that really sold me on it. This is a spoiler for a button of a great gag and a great bit. It's just in the Christmas mall when the kid opens the box and Art like blows up the mall.
All these kids are waiting in line for the mall Santa. The mall Santa goes on break. Art sneaks in and it starts handing them out presents. And one of the presents has a bomb in it, and all the children blow up.
Man, that was so fucking funny and just so That was just like, it made me happy because it was a different kind of kill where it's not going to like peel the kid's skin off like all the other kills. There was just something just so funny about it. I thought it was great. I love the spirit.
It was almost like demure for a Terrifier.
It was.
It's like they pull back to a wide shot to show the explosion.
Just like terrorism.
Yes.
It was just like a little like nice light terrorism.
It was a fun little demure effect for the Terrifier franchise.
Loved that moment. I think you're right. The sort of like Ed Wood textures, like sometimes I'm like, Damien, fucking roll again, like or like re-edit it.
I love it. It's like its flaws become its strengths.
It's like it has this. This sounds like I'm negging you. I'm not. It has this like nostalgic quotient that's interesting, where it reminds you of like the glory days of grindhouse cinema in its like inelegance, and I think that does ultimately contribute to the success of the franchise. I just don't know if I love it. Yeah, but man, oh man, this movie's so great. I'm not trying to undersell it. I give this. The
reason I love it is because because maybe what I'm about to say will just bump it up half a star.
Yeah, okay,
because there's such a fetishism for the 80s. You know, you think of Stranger Things, etc. But everyone always interprets that in the most surface of aesthetics. It's like, you're not doing the 80s. You're just doing the surface. You're just like recycling the surface aesthetics of the 80s and the sort of like memes and like the cultural sort of stuff of the 80s. But like, you're not getting at that central weird uncanny essence that makes sort of 80s and I would say 70s horror, you know, B movies, grindhouse movies, exploitation movies unique, which was this sort of like something that was simultaneously like cheap and rare. It was like a cheap experience, but like a rare experience for, you know, because of its bizarreness and its uniqueness. And I will say Terrifier is one of the only things out there that is able to like recapture that. And because you can't be hyper competent. You can't be the fucking Duffer Brothers or whatever, you know, you can't be like Lord and Miller. You can't have that level of sort of like, you know, hyper competency. You have to be a little indie scallywag who doesn't have enough money.
I agree.
And it fucking works.
I agree. I think this movie is great. I'm giving it a big 4 stars.
Nice. 4 stars. Okay,
big
good. I'll take 4. I'll take 4.
I think this movie is great.
Joe, this movie to me, when I was trying to think of the rating, I was like, I loved it so much. I had so much fun. How do I rate this movie? And it's almost like objectively easy for me to rate this movie, because this movie for me is if like I saw Damien Leone at like a bar and he's like, hey, do you want to play darts? I was like, sure. And he's like, okay, let's just do a simple game of darts. The goal is to just hit the bullseye. First one to hit the bullseye wins. I go, okay. And then Damien Leone turns around and just hits the bullseye with his first shot. And not even like bleeding off the edge, like right in the bullseye. Just hits the bullseye with his first dart. Mm-hmm. And he wins. To me, that's what this movie is. In its way, it hit the exact center of the bullseye of what it was trying to do, what it needed to do, what it wanted to do, the effect of it, everything just hits the bullseye. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. No. You can't compare it to some art house masterpiece, but judged on its own merits, what it's trying to do, it hit the fucking bullseye right in the center. I'm giving it 5 stars, baby.
Wow, a big 9.
A big 9. Okay.
3.